Happy Tuesday. Thank you all for joining me today for our monthly meeting of the LA MGMA. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jean Hutchings. I am a practice manager for Torrance Memorial Physician Network, and I'm also the president for the LH MGMA. So I want to thank you again for joining me. How is everybody today? How you guys doing? Yay!
We're eating. We're good.
Good. Well, you know what? Food. You got to make you happy, so that's good. Everybody's eating. That's wonderful. So, something I always like to do, either the word of the day or medical fun facts. So I have a few fun facts for you today I wanted to share. And this is according to disabledworld.com. The human nose, just FYI, it's just fun facts for you guys. The human nose can remember 50,000 different scents. If you didn't know that, this is a fun fact for you today. We also breathe in 13 pints of air every minute. And did you know your eyes are always the same size from birth, but your nose and your ears never stop growing? There you go. Who knew? If you didn't know, you have some new information today. So I'm not going to spend much time on announcements because we have a very packed presentation today. I wanted to introduce our speaker. His name is Jeffrey Washington. Jeffrey Washington, he's a motivational speaker and a coach. He's from the LA area. His area of expertise is leadership development, interpersonal communications, and diversity. I personally have had the pleasure of going to several of Jeffrey's workshops, and he's engaging and interactive, and his presentations are exciting. I've always learned something, and it's helped me become a better leader for my team. So please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the one and only Mr. Jeffrey Washington. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jean. And let's give Jean a hand. It's no easy feat coordinating an event and getting people to come to it. So thank you very much. I'm glad that you invited me. As she said, we met in some trainings that I had done before. And this topic of managing our emotions is a topic that is near and dear to all of us. We all have emotions. I work with a hospital where, as you know, there's a lot of stress in the hospital environment. So it's a very popular class. Every time we deliver the class, it's like sold out, and people really benefit from it. Obviously, we don't have the benefit of an entire 4-hour class today. I'm going to adapt a 4-hour class into a 1-hour presentation. How's that? All right. And get you the nut and bolts. To give you some take-home items to take with you. You guys already have some knowledge on this topic of emotions. Anybody ever got themselves in a place where they were really upset and they behaved, they acted, or did something that simply was not them? Raise your hands if you've done that. Yeah, like what was I thinking? What was I thinking when I did that? Has there been anybody who's been in a situation where you maybe were in a tough conversation and you didn't really speak up for yourself? And then at the end of the conversation, the perfect words came to you? Yep. By golly, I should have told him. Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about why that is. Why is that happening with our emotions? There's actually something going on not only in our brain, there's something going on in our brains that causes us to respond the way we do. We're all leaders, and even if we're not leaders in our home, or if we're not leaders at work, we're leaders in our home and community life. What do you think in the work context? Leaders should leave their emotions at home. If so, why? If not, why not? So far I'm hearing no, they should bring their emotions, right? Why do you think? Go ahead.
Well, emotions are part of who we are and part of all of the people that we lead.
Right.
And so if you try to leave them at home, then you're not getting, and they're part of the patients that we see. So how are you to empathize with someone if you just decided that emotions don't matter?
Okay. Anybody else? What do you think? Yes, sir.
People know when you're keeping it in. They know, they see the steam coming out of your ears.
Speaking of steam, so what about the emotions when people are yelling and screaming and all that? Should they leave those at home? I'm setting you up with the question. Yeah, they could be nice if they could leave those at home and just bring the good ones, right? But we know that we got to bring the whole package, right? So basically, I'm going to skip that slide. Emotions aren't good or bad, they simply exist. And so what we want to really talk about is that, yeah, you're right, you got to bring all the emotions. We need empathy, we need compassion, but we don't really want anger or frustration, the negative emotions. but we have to manage them as best we can. So that's what we're really talking about. How our emotions are managed determines really the type of impact that we have on the people that surround us. And as leaders, you know, we have a tremendous impact on people. Our behaviors, our actions have a tremendous impact on people. Okay, that just sets the stage. Emotions are important. As leaders, we have to bring our emotions to work. Sometimes we're going to bring the not so good emotions along with the good emotions, and we've got to be able to manage the emotions that aren't coming up. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about really quickly. We're going to define emotional intelligence. There's an actual definition of what it means. There's a lot of different definitions. I brought one. Are you familiar with these terms, IQ, EQ? Yeah. Have you heard IQ? We all know what IQ is, right? How smart we are. EQ, that stands for emotional quotient. Have you heard that? Okay, we'll talk about that, which is most important, especially if you're in a leadership role. Why we behave in ways we don't intend. When I ask you those questions, you know, and you calm down and you go, oh my God, that wasn't me. What was I thinking? Well, there's something going on in the brain. There's chemicals that are flooding our body that cause us to respond the way we do, and I'll explain what that is. When we understand that, we can do more about managing it. 5 components of emotional intelligence. We'll just go through them. We'll spend some time on the first one, and we'll do a couple exercises with the first one. The first component of emotional intelligence, if you can imagine, is self-awareness. I got to be aware of what I'm doing. I got to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why do I respond the way that I do? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll leave you with a few strategies that you can take home with you just to manage your emotions, especially in the moment, because a lot of times that's what we have to do. We're dealing with stressful environments, and we got to respond in the moment. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's the definition that we're referring to the ability to manage your own emotions, to understand, interpret, and respond appropriately to the emotions of others. Why? So that you can truly live your values and your intentions. I'm of the belief, some people will challenge me, but I'm of the belief people don't come to work intent on making your life miserable. Some will challenge me on that, but that's, you know, the benefit I like to give people, right? So when people blow up and they have these episodes at work, I don't believe that that was their intention. I believe that we all want to come to work and be pleasant, be likable, like people, get along with one another. And when we have spats that happen at work, I don't believe it's intentional. And so what we want to do is align our intentions with our behavior. And that's what we're trying to do. So that's the definition of it. It also enables us to read situations, understand what's happening as it's occurring, so that you can adjust your behavior appropriately. An example of that is if I'm in a conversation with someone and I say a few things and it starts to get testy and I see that the person is having a negative reaction to it, my emotional intelligence will let me cue in on that, and then I'll adjust. I'll back off, I'll redirect, as opposed to just plowing through or not even seeing the signs. So that's what emotional intelligence does for it. There's a great case for having emotional intelligence. So here's our first activity, and we're going to do it kind of quick, and we're going to do it as a table. It's called Good Boss, Bad Boss. Good Boss, Bad Boss. Raise your hands if you could think of a really cool boss that you worked for in your career. You really loved them, and you hated to see them go. Okay, very good. Raise your hands if you had a boss that wasn't so cool and they caused you stress, and oh my God. Okay, all right, enough said, enough said. Well, then this is going to be easy. And don't worry, I'm modifying this so it's not like a typical class where you got to do a lot of writing. But if you can remember what you said to each other, that'll be helpful. And then I'll capture your information on my flip chart. But we're going to play Good Boss, Bad Boss. And doing the good boss is really the one to go. So I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be fair here. I'm making a mess. Don't worry about it. I'm going to be fair here. Flip a coin. Heads or tails. If you guess right, you get the good boss. They get the bad boss. Otherwise, they get the good boss.
Heads.
Heads. What is that? These new coins now. Heads. That's heads. All right. Good boss, new boss. Or good boss, old boss. Good boss, bad boss is what I'm trying to say. All right. Here's what I want you guys to do, and I'm just going to give you a few minutes. Talk amongst yourselves. Think about those experiences that you had with those respective bosses, the bad boss, you know, the good boss. And here's what I want you to find out from each other. When I think about a good boss does what? They do or say. What did that good boss do for you? What did they say for you? How did they make you feel? Okay? What did they do? How did it make you feel? All right? And when you felt that way, as a result, what actions? What were your actions? Okay? So really quickly, I think about a good boss. I got a boss that empowered me. Empowered me. And how did that make me feel? Excited, energized. And how did that result in my performance? I went above and beyond. Yeah, I went above and beyond. Okay, so that's an example. If you can, if somebody can capture it as you're talking, great. I'm going to give you about 3 to 4 short minutes just to capture some data. And then when we debrief, we're going to make a note about the good boss, about the bad boss, but we're really going to work with the good boss information. Okay? All right, take a few minutes to talk amongst yourselves. Okay. I'll bring us back. I know I cut you. I probably didn't let you go long. Let's, for honorable mention, hear about the bad boss, and then we'll work with the good boss qualities. But what are some, what did you guys come up with as far as things bad bosses do and behaviors, that is, and how it makes you feel and how you produce?
So, favoritism can be.
Favoritism, okay.
So the feeling will be feeling unfair.
Feeling unfair, things are unfair.
Things are unfair, and then the actions will be not being productive.
Not productive,
Just have
okay.
the person you have favoritism for, have them versus, you just don't feel productive.
Okay, favoritism makes you feel like you're less than and you don't produce as much. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other examples?
Upset,
Yeah, like we were saying, like characteristics of not listening.
Not listening. Very good.
So it makes us feel sad.
Right.
Ignored.
Ig-
We're less productive.
Very good.
Not motivated. We're just like.
Very good. Any abusive behaviors, like yelling, screaming? Have you experienced that? Maybe not at you, but have you seen it? Yeah, yelling, screaming, that sort of thing. So it makes a person shut down, and they don't produce as well. And really, those types of behaviors are considered or indicative of poor or low EQ, low EQ. If I fly off at the handle, if I yell and scream, then I have an opportunity to improve my EQ. Is where we're going. All right, thank you. How about you guys? What did you guys come up with in terms of what does a good leader do? How does it make you feel? How do you produce? Supportive, okay.
Which makes you feel confident in your abilities,
Okay,
which makes you produce or be even a better manager.
okay. You have a list? Just read it. I won't write them out. Just read it. Go ahead, read it to me.
So everything from mentor, respect, accountability, willing to do the same type of work, provide resources, focus on the right things, give guidance, not details or micromanage, support your actions and decisions, and there's mutual trust.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. And generally speaking, how does that make us feel when we have a leader that does those things?
just feel like.
Yeah.
Like they really respect you and they appreciate what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
It makes you want to even do better.
Thank you. Thank you. I had a boss that she would walk by my cubicle and she would finally say, you need to stop what you're doing and get out of here and go home, because I was working over, right? Because I wanted to. I loved it, and she'd say, all right, enough, let's go, let's get out of here. So I relate to you. So we get it. When we have a good boss and they show these characteristics, it makes us feel well and we produce even more. We go above and beyond. And is that not our charge as a leader, to get work done through others? So I want to engage people, I want to motivate people, and doing these things help me do that. So let me ask you a question, not to make the bad boss feel bad at all, okay? But let me ask you a question. What conclusions can we draw, just from what we heard already? What conclusions can we draw? Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of times bad bosses, they don't feel good about themselves, so they tend to try to belittle or not look at the strengths of other people
Yeah.
because they're afraid somebody's going to show them up.
Okay.
So my bad boss was, she was afraid I was gonna steal her thunder, so she did everything she could to just squash me down.
Okay. You had the same experience? Okay. Okay, so well, we're talking about this. Are bad leaders bad people? No, they're not bad people. Here's another question. Do you think leaders are always aware of their behavior and the impact that they have on others? They don't. They don't. I do a lot of training, and when people talk to me about their boss and what do I do, I say, why don't you talk to them? That thought petrifies them. Oh, no, I can't talk to my boss. No. So, I says, well, you have to, because the boss may not even realize the impact it's having on you. Yes, sir.
Or they're getting stuff thrown on them, and then it gets rolled down to the same stuff,
They're in a vice.
and they're not able to be the right barrier, put the right things through, push back on the other things.
Exactly. Knowing how to filter. Knowing how to keep certain things away from their employees so they don't have to manage that. They can fight those battles behind the scenes. That takes years of experience and discernment.
Slashes on the back.
And slashes on the back. I love it. Why is awareness so valuable? It's a kind of a simple question, I guess. It's an obvious question. Why is awareness so valuable for? Yeah. Yeah. Are you guys familiar with, as leaders, 360s? Yeah, that brings out a lot of awareness where you farm out surveys to all the people that you work with, your peers, your direct reports, your vendors, and they all give you feedback on how they think you're doing. And it's all done anonymously, and it's all data-driven. So then when you look at it, it's like, wow, it's very revealing. And just having that awareness. Some of it stings a little bit because we like to all think that we're doing great all the time. But it's very, very, very valuable. Okay, so very good. Here's a note that I'm making about self-awareness. Self-awareness is really the nugget of emotional intelligence. Because without being self-aware, I can't do anything about it. So it says here, being aware of the impact that people are having on their employees is the first step in determining if they want to change their behavior. And I've met bosses. I had a boss that was pretty difficult, and when I talked to her and kind of confronted her and told her what she was doing and how it made me feel, she really was surprised by it. She felt bad about it, and she really did make a difference. So that's the first step. And there's a researcher, you might have heard of it, his name is Daniel Goleman. He's done a lot of research on this topic of emotional intelligence. And one of the things that he mentions is that, it says here 70% of employees, and the key word here is perceptions, are linked to the emotional intelligence of the leader. And I think we can agree with that. As the leader goes, the leader sets the tone. That makes all the difference. So what I wanted, going back to this slide here, when a good boss is doing these types of things, that's an indication of high EQ. They have high emotional intelligence. When they make people feel this way, you build trust. So all the things that you were sharing with me on the good boss, most definitely I trust my boss. If my boss says, hey, we're in a situation, can you help me out with this? Hey, no problem, boss. No question. I'm not thinking suspiciously or negatively. And as all, I get high performance out of my team. So I say all the time, even before I learned about emotional intelligence, I always believed, and maybe it was too simple, that to be a good manager of people, you just have to treat people well. It sounds too simple, but if you treat people well, I think people will respond positively. Yeah, you'll always have somebody maybe trying to take advantage of something, but I don't think everybody is that way. So this is the linkage here, that having good IQ links to people's productivity. That's where we're going there. Here's an interesting slide. This is coming out of the research from Daniel Goleman. EQ versus IQ as it relates to performance excellence. So no matter what our job is, more and more now EQ is required in our jobs, no matter what job we have. So if it says here, all jobs. So here the blue represents IQ, technical skills, how smart I might be. EQ represents how well I can manage my emotions and manage the emotions of those that I work with. So if you notice here, for all jobs, 33% is required, and it's more EQ is required, right? For all types of jobs. But look at the stat for leadership. For leadership, EQ attributes to 85% of my success. 85% of my success is based on my ability to manage my emotions and manage those around me, the emotions of others. So there was a time, and some of us might remember it, where it really was about technical skills, how smart you were, how much you knew, and there's value to that, but there was really no talk about feelings. Nobody really cared about people's feelings. Just get to work. We don't care about your feelings. And even today, when I do leadership training and I talk about this stuff, I still get some old school managers that'll say to me, oh, we're talking about this touchy-feely stuff, are we? So we still get some knocks on it about it, And that's cool. I respect that. I'm a touchy-feely guy. So it works for me, but everybody's not touchy-feely. We have some people that don't really express empathy to the degree that others do. And they're not bad for doing it. They just have a different perspective. So this is very, very important. I want to really focus on managing my emotions. When things are frustrating, when things are going bad, and everybody's nervous, they're looking to me for how I'm going to respond. And I want to respond in a very calm, collected, assuring way. And so I've really got to be working on that. And that's going to save me more than any technical skill I may not know. And I don't need to know a lot anymore. I got a team of experts. I got a team of subject matter experts and all my experts. I want to be able to manage my team. Any comments or questions on that? Okay, it makes the case that EQ is more important, and it directly links to performance management and excellence. Also, we get lower levels of stress and anger. People aren't so upset, aren't so uptight. I've noticed that when work groups are pretty tense and uptight, it usually has some connection to the manager in terms of creating that environment or that tone. Okay, now I was going back to intentions. It says that aligning our behavior with your values. Some people deliberately intend to be kind, caring, thoughtful in their interaction. Did you guys qualify there? Would you guys consider yourselves intent on, being agreeable with people and working with people, being pleasant? Of course. But every now and then, it happens. What happens when your behaviors are inconsistent with your intentions and values? In other words, somebody says something to you, and it just takes you there. Did it? In the office? Yeah. Those are called triggers, right? And have you guys heard this term? This is a term used by Daniel Goleman. When my emotions get the best of me. You've heard that term, right? When my emotions get the best of me, and when I settle down and I go, oh, I'm so sorry I did that, right? And will you forgive me? And most of us forgive each other. Most of us do. In fact, we're waiting for that apology so we can forgive you. Why? Because we're probably coming up soon too. So if I can make some emotional deposits in your bank, I'm going to do that because I may need to take a withdrawal. And you're going to give me some slack because I gave you some slack. Yeah? Okay, good. So what we call that is emotional hijacking. Emotional hijacking. When you didn't see it coming, I always tease with groups and I say, anger doesn't announce itself. Anger doesn't say, hi, I'm anger, here I am come. It just hits you. It hits you blindsided. Can I show you an example of emotional hijacking that I think everybody can remember? You ready? Huh?
Sure.
Okay. I thought somebody said work. Speaking of hijacking, do you remember this?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
When they drugged the guy off the plane? See, when an emotional hijacking event goes on, it affects not only the person, but it affects the people around it, right? So imagine the people on that plane watching this go down. Look at this lady. She's like, oh my God, what are you doing to that man? Right? So it creates, and that's a pretty tough scene to watch, right? That's pretty tough. So it comes, and I don't know all the details of what happened there, but I don't believe that whoever came on that plane to ask the gentleman off, I don't think they thought that's how it was going to end up. Absolutely not. And certainly the gentleman didn't think that. Well, of course they're not going to drag me off the plane. So emotions get crazy and haywired. All right, so you guys got that, huh? Can you think of a time, You just said it. I'm going to give you guys a couple of more minutes. Yeah, we still got 30 minutes. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. It says here, take turns describing an incident in the workplace where you participated in, meaning that it could have happened to you, or you witnessed an emotional hijacking. Yeah. Discuss the impact on the hijacking had on you and others. How did you feel or act? How did others feel or act? I'm going to give you a few minutes just to share with each other anything you want, and then I'll just ask for a couple samplings and we'll keep going. Can you think of any? Are there any that come to mind? I know you've got a whole bunch of them, huh? All right. Emotional hijacking. Somebody lost it. I'll really quick. My story would have been that I was in my office cubicle. Two people were in. One guy went into the boss's office. The boss was a female. And suddenly we heard yelling, screaming, profanity from both parties. And we were like, and they stopped, came out. Security was called. The person was escorted away. When everything settled down and they were mitigating it, the boss, believe it or not, went to bat for this guy. Okay, we just lost it, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? The guy lost his job. And even though the boss was going to bat, from the company's point of view, it was a liability issue. And there were people in that office that were scared. They didn't know what was getting ready to go down. And today, in today's climate, it's zero tolerance for it. All right, so talk amongst yourselves. Hijacking experiences that you might have witnessed it.
Body language to me says a lot. Yeah. And that's where.
I think sometimes your body language screams louder than your voice could.
Actions speak louder than words.
Actions speak a lot louder than words. And I was just telling them, I says, well, no, everybody's smart enough not to call somebody in the presence of others an idiot. What an idiot. Everybody knows better than to do that. But they think they can get away with giving you an expression like, it says the same thing, if not worse. You know, what an idiot. You hear this guy? Yeah. And people pick up on that and they're like, excuse me? Yeah, okay, good. All right, you guys got it. You guys got it. I'll keep it moving. So we talked about the reactions of the hijackings. How did people react when they saw that? Well, how were other people reacting?
They were like,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, whoa.
I just went and told everybody, I said, you know, if you'd like to discuss what happened, please let me know. I'm sorry
Yeah.
what happened.
And that was a good response. And the best thing that you can do in that situation is to remove the person out of that situation. That's what good customer service reps do with complaining customers when they're yelling and screaming and complaining. They'll say, ma'am, come on over here. Let's, you know, I don't want the rest of my customers to hear you saying this, you know. Yeah, now, what do you need? Yeah. And what that also does is when you do that with them, it helps them shift their thinking and where they are emotionally. So they get them out of that, because sometimes the crowd, you know, people like to play to the crowd. So you pull them away from the crowd, and then you start appealing to the rational side of their brain by asking, what can we do to make this better, ma'am? See, they got to stop hollering and screaming now.
She didn't.
Oh, she didn't, huh? Some like to be there. Some like to be there. All right, so I want to talk about hijacking, what goes on when we're hijacked, right? There's a book called Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When the Stakes Are High, and it talks about stressful conversations. Anytime that we're in a stressful situation, a stressful environment, I got a bus coming, I got a guy coming in with a gun, I got anything that's stressing, my body's going to take over. My body's going to take over, and the moment it knows that it's under stress, it begins to prepare me for protection. And I have to either fight or flight. Get out of there. And so without me having to say a word or do anything, my brain and my body just starts taking over. That's why we react so and wonder, where the heck did that come from? Yeah, because the body is taken over. So the body floods us with these chemicals called cortisol and adrenaline. And it floods our bodies in order to prepare us for that stressful situation. That's why we're so, and we feel it in a lot of different ways. Our back, our neck, our lip, our eye, whatever, because the chemicals are in our body, and that's what we're feeling. And so fight or flight, this is an example of the animal kingdom, right? There's that zebra under stress from the tiger. It's either going to fight the tiger, or in that instance, it's going to outrun the tiger. That's what's happening. So when hijacked, which boss do any of us look like? We probably look like the bad boss. Some of those bad bosses are just, their emotions are not where they should be. So I want to explain the little chemical reaction. Oh, I've got another slide here I want to just sum up, okay? Behavior comes from many sources. Our upbringing, our background, some people, the way they're taught to behave. I had a friend of mine that was taught that if, don't ever start a fight, but you better finish one. And if you start one, and if you finish one, and if you don't finish it, when you get home, I'm going to kick your butt. All right? So that's crazy, right? But I grew up with people that had that thinking in the home. So a person's going to typically be kind of aggressive when they come out into the work environment. So behavior doesn't always align with our intentions. We know that. We mean well, but that's why we have to be humble and forgiving of others, because we're likely to miss it. Sometimes people let their emotions hijack their intentions. You guys get that, right? As a leader, what we've got to always remember is that our intentions have to match our behavior. When somebody does something inadvertently and it affects somebody in a negative way and it's brought to their attention, you know what the number one answer is that people give? That wasn't my intention. I didn't intend to do that. We know you didn't intend to do that, but you still have to own the impact that you had on the person. So we want to always try to align our behavior with our intentions so we don't have to say, well, I didn't intend to do that. Okay? So this is what I wanted to show you, and I think there's some value here. I want to give us all the benefit of the doubt and give us a break. When you fly off the handle and you behave in a way that when you calm down you're not real proud of, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Okay? And the benefit of the doubt is that's your brain taking over and working. That's your brain working and getting you ready for fight or flight. So let me explain this, understanding our brain science. This is the top portion of the brain called the cortex or the neocortex. And this part of the brain is called the limbic area. This is really responsible for our rational thinking. This is responsible for the emotional center, how we feel. Very important. And then this is the atomic area. So these are the three areas. Let me tell you what each function does. This is the first one. This little part of the brain, the autonomic area. It's what we don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to think about our heartbeat. It just happens automatically. But this part of the brain is what's communicating to those vital organs. So that's already happening. And it's the first part of our brain to evolve when we're babies in the womb, this part of the brain here. So when I was first learning this, I thought, hey, yeah, I guess I don't have to tell my brain to breathe or tell my brain to tell my heart to go. Thank God I don't have to. All right? Okay, but here's the part of the brain that's responsible for rational thinking. Rational thinking, including ability to solve problems. Part of the brain that analyzes data and facts. So think about when you calm down. And you still have the problem before you, right? Typically, it's still there. But you're approaching it now completely different. You're thinking, okay, all right, how can we deal with this? How can we work this through once we're settled down? That's the part of the brain that helps us do that. And sometimes this part of the brain is at rest. In other words, it's not actually actively working, right? This is the part of the brain that we really want to be aware of. It's called the limbic area, right? And this is the site for emotional memory. So it stores all of our emotional experiences. And when we respond emotionally, it's from this part of our brain. Notice it's always alert. And it's like a sentinel looking out for any stressful situations, always looking. And the minute it sees one, it starts doing its thing, right? It operates 80 to 100 times faster than the limbic system. So our brain, the emotional center of our brain, acts much faster than the rational part of our brain. able to send messages throughout the body, and it's responsible for the fight or flight. Now, going back here to memory, let me see if I can give you this quick example about how the brain is different from memory, emotional memory, and rational thinking. Think back to the days when you first learned how to drive a car. Do you remember that? And what I remember is everything was important. Everything. Where's the steering wheel? Where's the key? Where's the, everything was important. And you were really thinking and putting it through, and everything that you did was deliberate. That's the rational brain working. That's the top part, the neocortex. You're learning. But then, as you do it so many times, it becomes memory. And you don't have to think about it anymore. It's stored in your brain. So let me ask you another question. Have any of you ever gotten in your car, drove all the way to work, and you pulled in and thought, how did I get here? Wow, I was thinking about this and that and that and this. Wow, I'm at work. Oh, wow. How'd that happen? Yeah, exactly. That's the brain. That's the brain working. It's already in. It's set. Now, let's talk about this in terms of emotional intelligence. Okay, memory. So we already know. We don't have to think. We just act, right? Well, it's the same thing when we're in stressful situations. See, we have triggers, and we're going to find out about our triggers in just a moment. But we have triggers. And so the brain says, remember when somebody yells at you, this is how you behave. Oh, yeah, bam! We do it, right? It's just a trigger. It's a repetitive motion that we do. So that's how emotional hijacking occurs. When the limbic part of the brain operates faster than the rational side of the brain. That's why we say when we settle down, wow, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? That's crazy. And here's the thing to remember. When we're under a stressful situation, we feel first. We don't think first. We feel first. So we react, we respond. And we react. What we want to do is slow down and stop reacting and instead respond. The difference being, when I react, I don't give it any thought. I just feel something and I react. When I respond, I do give it some thought. I do think about it. And then I respond in a thoughtful way. So I could say, why do you keep doing that? That's just a reaction. It's bothering me and I just blurt out, why do you keep doing that? Or I could settle down and I could think, okay, what value is that going to add? How will they receive that? Probably not very well. Is it still a concern? Yeah. So how can I ask the same question in a better way? Excuse me, there's a noise you're making. Could you, something like that, something polite. But that's the rational brain working. So that's the difference between reacting versus responding. So here I want to act. So what's the challenge? The challenge is getting a partnership between this part of the brain and that part of the brain. In other words, you've got to figure out a way to slow this part of the brain down until this part of the brain can catch up. Does that make sense to what we're saying here? So that way we think before we act. Yeah? That helps a lot. Quick example, I was at an event just like this, and my Jean, I walked up and asked her, hey, where can I put my banner? Of my name and my likeness and everything. And she said, what do you mean put up a banner? You don't get a banner. None of the other speakers have banners. Do you think you're special? Yeah. For some reason, when she said that, it triggered me. It triggered me. Now, I had a choice. I could have just let go right here and bam, and said something inappropriate, but I didn't. I'm glad to say I didn't. Let me tell you what I did instead is I used this part of the brain. I thought before I acted. And these were my thoughts. I said, even though I was like upset and I was like trying to deal with that, I was like, this is my client. I haven't been paid yet. I want repeat business. I started thinking those things. And as I slowed down and I just simply said, oh no, ma'am, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to think that I was special. I just kind of ate it. I just ate pie. I just ate humble pie. I just ate a slice of humble pie. I just ate it. Well, the good news is because I thought before I acted and I came out with an appropriate response, the event went well. I got more business. As a matter of fact, the next day, she was sweet as pie. She was just stressed out because of the day before the event. So her behavior probably wasn't appropriate in the way she spoke to me, but that's another sign of emotional intelligence, that even when people are not at their best, you can bring them up, or at least not succumb down to where they are. Fair enough? Okay, let's keep going here. I think we got that. Let me go through this pretty quickly, and I want to spend the last 10 minutes going over some triggers. I want to just do that, and I think there'll be some value there. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. They're just descriptions. This is only a 1-hour presentation, but we could, in our training and in our classes, we delve down into each one of these components and talk about what that means. We're going to spend a few minutes with the first one, which is self-awareness. And part of being self-aware is to understand and know what sets you off, what makes you go. And what makes you go wouldn't bother you at all, and it may not bother you, but it would also bother me. So our triggers are all different. And it's important to understand what triggers us so that we can anticipate it and manage it. Okay? So that's the definition for self-awareness. Fully understand yourself. And then use that knowledge to manage your emotions appropriately. And I've done that many times in a lot of situations, and I'm glad that I've done it. I was getting served just the other night at P.F. Chang's. I didn't like the way the guy was serving me. I thought he was giving me really lousy service. I was working myself up. And then I just realized, hey, wait a minute, man. Just relax, chill out, give the guy a little empathy. Turns out I was totally wrong about what I assumed, and I was so glad I didn't go there. So it's important to be able to do that. And then when you can be self-aware, then you can self-manage, right? And self-manage is really about discerning situations and regulating your urges to act, your urges to say something. Let me pull that back. Let me manage that. And to your point, when I'm pulling back, I need to be conscious of my face and my body language too. Because I'll pull back verbally and then it'll seep out of my face, right? Yeah. So I don't want that to happen. Yeah, exactly. The other one is empathy. I just came from a session this morning talking about empathy. This is huge. And I think when I'm more empathetic and I understand people, understand their perspectives, but here's the real key, is understanding the impact I have on them. I have a pet peeve. I don't like bullies. And I don't like workplace bullies. And I don't like bullies that use their power to intimidate other people. That's not cool, right? So as a leader, if I have high EQ, I'm going to be really sensitive to what I say and do and how it makes people feel and how it makes them perform. That's very, very important. Okay, motivation. This is just people that have high motivation. They work hard at their own personal goals. And they also encourage their team to do the same. A high IQ leader, I worked with a high IQ leader, and you know what he always said to me? What are you working on now? You know, I would be tooting my horn. Oh, look what I did. Great. What are you working on now? You know, always pushing us to develop ourselves and be better. Okay, and then the last one is when I really have EQ down. I almost said GQ. Hey now. Hey, I'm on the cover. All right, ability to build relationships among your team, or your family members, or the people in your circles that just can't seem to get along with each other. You have the ability to help them hear one another and build relationships that express caring, concern. And it's okay to have conflict. You just want to do it in a healthy way. So those are the components of EQ. What's really cool about it is that our IQ, we have a capacity. We can, believe it or not, learn. We can only be so smart. We have a capacity in terms of our IQ, but we don't with EQ. We can keep growing. We can keep learning EQ. It definitely increases with age and life experiences. You know, I have learned a lot, and I find myself getting better and better at what I do. I'll give you a quick example. My lovely significant other and I currently were sharing a car, and she had my car last night. I had a rental. And I said, hey, are you okay on gas? I got to put gas in the car. Yeah, I'm okay on gas. Okay, cool. Well, I got the car this morning, and there's no gas in the car. And you know what my urge was? My urge was to pick up the phone and say, hey, you left me with no gas, and I've got to hustle from the hospital to the petroleum club, and I don't have time to stop for gas. And, you know, I thought about all that, about doing all that. And I said, what value added is that? What's that going to do to her? Just make her feel bad, right? So we learn through, and I used to do that. I used to call you and get on you and get on you. And as I get older and older and older, I go, you know what? That's not good IQ. That's not good EQ. You know, let it go, right? So use your life experiences. Use your limbic memory. We talked about getting into work really fast, driving in, not knowing how. It's because it's already locked in. So use those productively, right? Over time. I've seen this movie before. Thank you. Seen this movie before. But if you hold on to the negative experiences, we won't grow. And maybe we know some people that still are easily set off, still get caught up in the small stuff, just cantankerous, not happy. They're not learning. They're not applying this. Okay? All right, this is what I want to do. The last 5 minutes, we can do this. Triggers. I want to know what your triggers are. I got 5 minutes to do this, right? All right, really quick. You don't have to answer them all. Grab this trigger page. I'm curious to know what your triggers are. Do you already know what your triggers are? Yeah? So there's like 7 or 8. Just do a couple of them. Pick any one you like. I get mad when. I don't like it when people. If people would only. And then take your shot at answering the questions down at the bottom. Man, an hour goes fast. Wow. So I got about 3.5, right? Okay. All right. She's going to hook me here in just a couple minutes. Can anybody, maybe you guys knew this off the top of your head. Anybody fill in any of those triggers? Yeah? What? Give me a couple sentences. What would you say?
People yell at me.
So you get mad when people yell at you?
Yeah, I get.
Okay. Yeah, you get flustered. Okay. Anybody else?
I got one for you.
Yeah.
It's a lot about anger, because that's when it's the most obvious and it's so outward. But, you know, what I found is when someone's angry with me and there's so much writing on it, like fear comes into place. Like when you were thinking about this is my client, I haven't gotten paid, blah, blah, blah. It's like all of a sudden I become this person I'm not normally. I start walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
I make 10 times more mistakes when I'm in that place
Yeah.
than if I would probably just be myself and like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you want to be able to assert yourself more in those situations.
Yeah, but I think my past, because I have awareness, is don't say something you'll regret, don't be condescending, you know, don't like
So you're almost frozen there for a moment. Yeah, yeah.
like the neocortex isn't kicking in.
Right, right,
I pause,
right.
and then it's like
Well, yeah, okay. Let me keep, I'm just going to show you what's here. Pause technique, what does it do? It gives the rational brain a chance to catch up to the emotional brain. Kind of what you're talking about. Reframing your thinking and grouping. It talks about having mantras, you know, saying something positive to yourself, some self-positive affirmation. You know, one that I like to use is a simple one that we use in my community. I got this. I got this. I got this. You know, it's a way of giving myself confidence. All right, I'm going to have to go. The rest that's on here, there's a few more slides, but it's more take-home stuff. So, say again? Oh, I do? Okay, well, I'm actually about done here. Anyway, breathing slowly, that does a lot. Shift your body.
Except for don't breathe too loudly, because I got in trouble for that.
From going,
I went, because I was bringing on the next thing, right?
right.
People come to me and I'm like, okay, well, somebody didn't like that.
That was a perception that she didn't care or they were getting on her nerves.
So I have to be very
So we got to be self-aware, yeah. Yeah. All right. The last slide that I have, I just want you to know what's there. It's 10 strategies that you can use when you feel yourself getting flustered while you're at work. Compartmentalization works well for me. And 2 and 3 are pretty cool. Folks, I got to leave. I got to respect the time, but thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Are we done here? All right, thanks.